I wasn't even supposed to be at the Skyline Terrace that morning. It was one of those overscheduled days that starts with a sigh and ends with a headache. My boss had double-booked himself and asked if I could take the breakfast meeting in his place, just a vendor we were trialing, nothing urgent. I almost said no. I should have. But I said yes because that's what I do. I show up. I clean up. I hold things together. The Skyline Terrace sat on the 22nd floor of the Palomar Hotel in downtown Seattle. Big floor-to-ceiling windows, soft jazz in the background, white linen tablecloths that were so crisp you could hear the creases. It was the kind of place Brooke loved. She always said brunch felt like a vacation even in the middle of a weekday. We used to come here on anniversaries. I hadn't thought of that in a while. The meeting itself was forgettable. Some guy named Andrew talking about cloud migration systems with all the enthusiasm of a sleep-deprived TED Talk. I nodded, asked the right questions, even cracked a smile. But I wasn't really listening. My mind was already foggy that morning, maybe because Brooke had left early for back-to-back meetings and didn't say goodbye. That had become a thing lately. It was pure coincidence, cruel, cosmic coincidence, that I happened to glance out toward the terrace mid-sentence. I remember blinking slowly like my eyes were playing tricks on me. But they weren't. She was there. Brooke. She was sitting at a corner table outside, the one tucked right against the railing with the best view of the Sound. Her hair was pulled back in that casual, effortless way that actually took effort. She looked relaxed, genuinely relaxed. She laughed at something the man across from her said, then leaned forward, resting her elbow on the table as her hand found his. Not a friendly touch. Not a coworker's brief pat or a sister's nudge. No, this was different. Their fingers were laced together. Intertwined. Like they did this often. Like it was normal. And neither of them seemed to care that there was a camera pointed right at them. The hotel always had surveillance running on the terrace, Brooke knew that. We joked about it before. One time she dared me to kiss her under it. Let's give the night shift something to blush over, she'd whispered. But now here she was, out in plain view, hand in hand with someone I didn't recognize, completely unbothered. I stared too long. I must have. Andrew cleared his throat and asked, "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a blink. "Just thought I saw someone I knew." I made it through the next 20 minutes of that meeting, though I couldn't tell you a single thing the guy said. I must have agreed to whatever he was pitching because he left smiling and offered to pick up the tab. I let him. The second he was gone, I walked over to the hostess, flashed my ID, and asked for hotel security. Old habit from my college days working events, I knew that kind of request would work if I sounded like I belonged. 15 minutes later, I was down 2 floors in the security office, sipping a lukewarm coffee while a tech named Mark pulled the terrace feed from the archive. "Need a copy?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just personal reasons." He handed me a flash drive. Was it a cheating thing? I didn't answer. He took that as confirmation. "Sorry, man. Hate when that happens." I left without another word. The drive sat in my glove compartment for an hour before I even plugged it in. I sat in my car, parked along a quiet side street, engine off, just watching people pass by on the sidewalk, businesswomen in tailored coats, couples laughing over lattes, the world spinning like nothing had changed. Like mine hadn't. Finally, I opened my laptop. The footage was short. 2.5 minutes. Just long enough to make it impossible to deny what I'd seen. The angle was clear. Brooke. Her smile. Her eyes soft in a way I hadn't seen in months. The man leaned closer, and she didn't flinch. She let her hand stay in his. She looked at him like he was the only one on the planet. And she looked happy. That was the part that gutted me. Not the hand-holding. Not the ** Macy. But the happiness. That expression that used to be mine. I forwarded the clip to her with no subject line. No message. Just the file. She replied 20 minutes later, casual as ever. "Ryan, come on. That's my colleague from Portland. We were talking about his engagement. The angle just makes it look weird. I promise it's nothing." Nothing. She called it nothing. Like I was being dramatic. Like my eyes had betrayed me, not her. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I didn't throw my phone across the dashboard or scream or cry or do any of the things people do in movies when they find out. Instead, I sat there, staring at the dashboard clock for what felt like hours. Then I started driving. No destination. No plan. Just the road and the questions I didn't want to ask out loud. Had it started recently? Had it been going on for months? Was this the first time she'd met him in public, or just the first time I caught her? And why the hell did she look so at peace? I stopped for gas in some town I didn't recognize. Picked up a bottle of water and a pack of gum just so the cashier wouldn't ask why I was loitering. Every time my phone buzzed, I ignored it. By sunset, I was halfway to the coast. I parked near a cliffside lookout, the kind we'd once pulled off at during a spontaneous weekend trip years ago. We'd taken selfies with the wind in our hair and joked about how cold the ocean always looked from up here. That version of us felt like a story someone else had told me. I sat on the hood of the car, wind howling, the flash drive still in my pocket like a ghost. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe I was overreacting. That's what she wanted me to think, right? But I knew better. You don't lace your fingers with someone over brunch and look at them like that unless there's something deeper. Something that doesn't belong in a marriage. Something that doesn't come with the word nothing. I could have driven home, demanded answers, thrown the evidence on the table and waited for her to confess or lie. But I didn't. I just watched the waves crash against the shore and listened to the one truth I couldn't deny anymore. Something had broken, and no one had noticed but me. The thing about betrayal is this: once the illusion cracks, you start noticing everything. And not just noticing, but reevaluating, replaying conversations, reanalyzing moments. Something as small as a change in tone or a glance too quick suddenly feels like foreshadowing. After I saw Brooke holding that man's hand through the hotel window, something inside me shifted. I don't know if it was clarity or just numbness, but from that point forward, I stopped dismissing the gut feelings I'd buried for months. I didn't just feel like something was wrong anymore. I knew it. And with that knowing came a flood of realization. It started with her fitness obsession. 8 months ago, Brooke became a different person, disciplined, energetic, and, more than anything, distant. She started waking up before sunrise to hit the gym. Not the one down the street where she used to go for yoga on Saturdays, but one way across town. Some boutique, members-only place that required a key fob and came with eucalyptus-scented towels. She justified it by calling it a mental reset, said the environment was more motivational. I wanted to support her, so I encouraged it. I even offered to drive her when her car was in the shop once. She declined. That should have been the first red flag. Then came the wardrobe changes. At first, it was just athletic gear, leggings that looked more like fashion statements, sleek jackets with thumb holes, compression tops that left little to the imagination. But soon it expanded. Cocktail dresses I hadn't seen before. Expensive ones. Fitted jeans. Backless tops she never wore around me. She said she was refreshing her style, something about wanting to feel like herself again. And yet, the version of herself she was becoming felt less and less like the woman I knew. Her late meetings became a regular thing around the same time. First once a week, then 3. Eventually, I stopped asking when she'd be home. There were nights she didn't come back until after midnight. She'd creep in, thinking I was asleep, then slide under the covers and mutter something about a brutal work session. The excuses never changed, but they stopped sounding real. One night, she told me she was spending the weekend at her sister's place, Jenna. Girls' wine night. No boys allowed, she texted with a wink emoji. I smiled at the message, genuinely believing her. But when I bumped into Jenna the following week, she casually mentioned that she and her boyfriend had spent the weekend in Oregon. Wait, I said. Weren't you with Brooke last weekend? Jenna frowned. No, haven't seen her in a while. Why? I laughed it off, said I must have mixed up the dates. But something in me snapped right then, even if I didn't want to admit it yet. Then came the box. It was a Tuesday, and I was deep cleaning the hallway closet, something Brooke had been nagging me about for months. I was stacking towels when I found it tucked behind an old shoebox. Matte black, tied with a crimson ribbon, like it was meant to be opened with anticipation. Inside were 4 sets of lingerie. Delicate, intricate, nothing like what she ever wore around me. Still had the tags. Boutique brand. Imported. I stared at the pieces, lace, silk, garter belts, and my mind didn't know what to do. My heart did, though. It sank. Because whatever fantasy I'd held onto that this was all just a misunderstanding died right there, next to the extra hand towels. When I asked Brooke about it later that night, she blinked in surprise and then let out a short laugh. Oh my God, you found that? I bought it for our anniversary. But then I got self-conscious and decided to return it. Tags are still on, I said quietly. Anniversary was 3 months ago. She waved it off. Yeah, I forgot. Honestly, I thought you'd find it weird. I wasn't even sure if you'd like that kind of thing. I didn't push. But I should have. That week, I picked up her car from the dealership after her oil change. The second I opened the driver's door, I smelled it. Cologne. Not mine. Not any brand I'd ever worn. It wasn't faint either, it was like someone had practically bathed in it. I sniffed again, trying to explain it away. Maybe the mechanic? Maybe she drove a coworker home? But I knew better. The car was spotless. Too spotless. Like someone had been cleaning up, wiping prints, erasing traces. That's when I looked closer and noticed the passenger seat was adjusted too far back, like someone taller had been sitting there recently. Still, I said nothing. Why? Because saying something would have made it real. Then came her phone. Once upon a time, she used to leave it on the kitchen counter, even in the bathroom when she showered. These days, it never left her side. Always face down. Always on silent. She took calls outside or in the bedroom with the door half shut. Just work stuff, she'd say. Boring project meetings. Late one night, as she slept, I picked it up. The lock screen glared at me, mocking me with its code. I didn't know it. She'd changed it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting every crack that had formed in our marriage. And for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to follow the thread wherever it led. It led me straight into the past. The Sunday she said she had a brunch meeting with old co-workers, but her calendar was blank. The night she came home drunk, claimed she was Ubering with colleagues, but her phone battery had died and she couldn't remember which route they took. The hotel charge on our credit card from a random Thursday, she said she'd been working late and crashed at Jenna's again. The $200 spa service billed under her maiden name. It all aligned. I stopped guessing. I started looking. We had a shared cloud backup account from when we synced our devices for vacation photos. She probably forgot it even existed. When I logged in, it was mostly harmless. **TS. Shopping lists. The occasional selfie. But then I found the folder, Houston Leadership Retreat. She told me she was flying out for 4 days. A corporate conference. Workshops, breakouts, team building. Said the hotel was nice. You'd love it, she told me. I'll take pictures. She did. Just not the kind I expected. The first image was of her hotel suite. A king-size bed turned down, a half-empty bottle of champagne, and 2 wine glasses on the table. The next? A man's dress shoes at the edge of the bathroom. Then, a blurry mirror photo, Brooke in a robe, grinning, with the faint outline of someone behind her on the bed. There were 10 photos total. Every one of them a lie wrapped in linen. I closed the laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel angry, just hollow. Like someone had scooped out my insides and left nothing behind but muscle memory. The next morning, I moved like a machine. I packed a box, birth certificate, passport, insurance cards, laptop, a few clothes. Grabbed my dog's leash, took a deep breath and walked out. Before I left, I changed the passwords to our shared accounts. Bank logins. Utilities. Cloud storage. I canceled auto payments tied to my name. Called my buddy with a storage unit and said I'd be dropping a few things off. No explanation. I didn't leave a note. I didn't tell her where I was going. I wanted her to come home to silence. I wanted her to feel what I had felt for months, the absence of someone who used to love you, standing in plain sight, fading without a sound. I didn't go far at first. Just far enough to breathe. A friend of mine, Wes, had a spare key to a cabin he barely used, a place up near Loch Connor, tucked between foggy hills and pine trees that looked like they hadn't moved since the Civil War. I called him once, gave him the shortest version I could. He didn't ask questions. Just texted me the door code and said, "Stay as long as you need." That night, with the dog curled up at the foot of the unfamiliar bed, I stared at the ceiling fan until the room stopped spinning. No part of me missed being home. It already felt like a museum of a life I no longer believed in. But I wasn't there to hide. I was there to think. Because I still didn't know what I was going to do. The proof was everywhere, scattered across devices and accounts we once shared without question. She'd stopped being careful because she thought I wasn't paying attention. Maybe she believed I wouldn't ever look. Maybe she thought I'd never want to. But she underestimated me. That next morning, I drove to the nearest coffee shop with decent Wi-Fi and an outlet. I opened the laptop and started going through everything, this time with intention. Not just for myself, but to build a case. Not for court necessarily. For clarity. For closure. For the record. The first thing I pulled up was the Houston trip. This time, I wasn't just scrolling through photos. I cross-checked dates with flight bookings, rideshare history, and her corporate calendar. She had told me the conference was hosted by her company's East Coast office. But the attendee list I found on the official website didn't include her name, not once. I looked twice. Then I searched by her maiden name. Still nothing. She had lied about the conference entirely. It hadn't even been in Houston, it was held in Austin, a full 2 hours away. I even called the hotel directly, pretending to be her assistant, and confirmed that the room she stayed in had been booked under a different name. Hers, but not her married one. That alone was enough to turn my stomach. But it didn't stop there. I checked her joint credit card. The statements told a story she hadn't bothered to hide. Room service for 2. Spa treatments. A wine-pairing dinner at a place that required reservations weeks in advance. On our shared dime, I highlighted each charge, printed the receipts. She'd signed her name on all of them. Carelessly. Like she didn't expect me to look. Or care. The cloud drive held more than photos. I found *TS she must have saved by accident, restaurant menus, calendar invites from her colleague that included pet names in the subject line. Dinner with my favorite troublemaker, and let's skip dessert again. At one point I actually paused and laughed. Not because it was funny, but because of how lazy it all was. How certain she must have been that I'd never notice. Or maybe how little she thought of me by the end. I compiled it all. I opened a fresh folder on the desktop and named it Brooke Truth. Inside went everything. PDFs, photos, receipts, screen grabs, timestamps, messages I'd backed up from old devices, every late-night Uber trip logged under her account. Some nights she said she was with Jenna. The same nights her ride ended across town at an address I didn't recognize. A condo building. Luxury. Private garage. I made a note of it. There was even a moment I caught on a saved voicemail. I had forgotten about it until I stumbled across the transcript in our shared phone account. A message left 2 months ago when she'd called me late from an offsite. Her voice was low, distracted. "Hey babe, just wanted to say goodnight. It's loud here and I'll probably crash soon. Don't wait up." But in the background, clear as day, was a man's voice. Muffled but close. Close enough to say, "Are you coming back to bed or what?" She must not have realized she'd already hit record. I downloaded it. Played it once. That was enough. By sunset I had a complete archive. Then I took the next step. I contacted a divorce attorney. Not because I wanted to rush into it, but because I needed to understand my rights. I wasn't going to be blindsided, not by her, and not by whatever legal mess this might become. Her infidelity wasn't just a betrayal of trust, it was a breach of partnership. Of shared goals. Of the life we'd built. The attorney's name was Melissa Cruz. Calm, precise, and with a reputation for being methodical to a fault. I liked her immediately. I sent over the folder. She called back 2 hours later. "This," she said, "is thorough. I don't want revenge," I told her. "Just clarity. And control." Melissa said something I haven't forgotten. "People think evidence like this is about catching someone. It's not. It's about remembering what you deserve when someone else has tried to make you forget." I let that settle. Because she was right. The next morning I went back to the house. Not to speak. Not to fight. Just to act. Brooke's flight from her conference wasn't due to land until the afternoon. I had a window. I moved quickly. Quietly. I took what was mine. Cleared out the documents from our safe. Retrieved my passport, birth certificate, bank tokens. Grabbed the spare hard drive she didn't know existed. I left the rest untouched. But on our bed, I placed an envelope. Inside were printed *TS, highlighted receipts, and copies of the photos from the hotel. I didn't annotate them. Didn't write a single word. I didn't have to. On top of the envelope I placed a still image from the hotel terrace camera, the one where she's holding his hand like it was something sacred. I used a red pen to underline the timestamp in the corner. Then I walked downstairs and reset every shared device. Signed out of accounts. Wiped the iPad. Canceled the Netflix. Locked her out of the joint savings and redirected my paycheck to a new bank. Nothing aggressive. Nothing dramatic. Just boundaries. On the kitchen counter I left one final detail. A small white card. The kind we used to use when leaving notes before travel. I wrote just 6 words on it. "You knew what this was. R." I didn't wait to see her reaction. I left the house. Changed my phone number. Deactivated my social media. Told friends not to give out any information unless I said otherwise. She wouldn't be able to reach me. And if she wanted to try, she'd have to sit in the silence first. In the quiet I had lived in for months while she was slipping away 1 inch at a time. She'd have to feel it. Because I wasn't gone in rage. I wasn't leaving in shame. I left with proof. And that, more than anything, meant I didn't need her version anymore. I had the truth. It spoke for itself. Brooke landed at Seattle-Tacoma on a Thursday afternoon. Her flight touched down a little after 3 p.m. I knew that because her itinerary had been sitting in our shared email calendar for weeks. She hadn't even bothered to delete it. Her conference was supposed to end with a networking brunch and a shuttle back to the airport. I imagined her sipping coffee and telling some stranger at the gate how lucky she was to have a husband who trusted her completely. She was always good at sounding sincere. At 5:12 p.m., the garage door opened. The app on my phone, still synced to the old security system, sent me the alert just like I knew it would. I didn't watch the camera feed. I didn't need to. I could picture it all without trying, her car rolling in, the engine shutting off, the beep of her key fob unlocking the door that no longer led to the life she remembered. She probably walked in expecting the usual. Maybe she even rehearsed an excuse in her head. Maybe she figured I'd seen the envelope and the photos and the cold, quiet message on the kitchen counter, but she'd have time to spin it. Make it a miscommunication. A slip. A moment of confusion. Maybe she thought there was still enough trust left to patch it all up. But I'd taken that with me when I left. By 5:18 she would have noticed. The coat rack was half empty. The dog's bed in the corner gone. No leash, no bowls, no toys. She probably called out my name then, loud and casual, like she didn't already feel it in her chest. Like the air hadn't already shifted. I pictured her walking through each room, slower with every step. First the kitchen, neatly wiped down, nothing left in the fridge except her oat milk and that kale juice she pretended to like. The cabinet still full, but colder now. The spice rack untouched. No coffee mug in the sink. No signs of breakfast or life. Then the living room. Our wedding photo, once framed on the console table, gone. The blanket we used to fight over on movie nights, folded and missing. The little things, my headphones, the candles I hated, the dumb coaster I'd had since college, all disappeared like they were never there. Upstairs, the bedroom must have hit her like a brick. She wouldn't have noticed the absence at first. The bed was made. The furniture in place. Her dresser untouched. Her shoes lined up perfectly. But then she would have seen my side emptier than it had ever been. No charger on the nightstand. No books, no watch, no water glass. The closet door wide open. Half the hangers missing. Gaps where shirts used to be. Drawers hollowed out. And then the envelope. Sitting dead center on the mattress as if it had been waiting for her all week. Inside, copies of every piece of evidence. Time-stamped photos. Receipts. Calendar logs. Travel confirmations. That single frame from the hotel terrace, printed in color, her fingers wrapped around a stranger's hand. I imagined her opening it with trembling hands. At first flipping through it fast, trying to get ahead of it. Then slower. Then not at all. And then just staring. Like the paper might rewrite itself if she blinked hard enough. She didn't text me. Not immediately. Instead, at 5:43, she tried calling. Twice. The calls went straight to voicemail. At 5:49, she called again. At 5:54, she left a message. Ryan, I just got home. Please call me. Please. I don't know what this is. Can we talk? Please. Just call me. She sounded breathless. Like she'd been crying already. Like it had just started to hit her that this wasn't a fight. It wasn't a confrontation. It was a removal. Precise. Surgical. Absolute. At 6:17, another message, okay. I get it. You're hurt. I know how this looks, but I swear it's not what you think. Please let me explain. Please. Just give me a chance to. Voicemail cut her off. At 6:45, another, where are you? I'm scared. I don't understand what's happening. If this is about the hotel, I can explain that. It's not what it looks like. That man he's just a friend. He's getting a divorce and God, please call me. She was spiraling. You could hear it in her voice. But I didn't respond. By 7:10, she started texting. Please. Talk to me. Ryan. You can't just disappear. What do you want from me? I'll do anything. Just come home. I turned my phone off. When I turned it back on the next morning, there were 17 missed calls and 29 texts. The last one just said, I'm so sorry. But by then, sorry didn't mean anything. Not after months of slow erosion. Not after the gaslighting. Not after being made to feel like I was paranoid or possessive for noticing her distance. Not after being replaced in silence while she wore my ring and shared my bed. I had nothing left to say. And she had no one left to lie to. I don't know what she did that night. If she curled up on the couch. If she sat in the dark and waited for the front door to open. Maybe she walked through each room again, trying to convince herself that none of this was happening. That it was just a bad dream. That I'd come back with an apology and a bouquet and take partial blame for being emotionally unavailable or too quiet lately. But I wasn't coming back. She didn't understand that silence isn't always a pause. Sometimes it's a sentence ending. The next day, I got a call from Jenna. I let it ring the first time, but she tried again. I answered. I didn't know, she said. She lied to me too. I didn't say anything. She told me you were going through something. That's why you left. But then she said you found something on her laptop and she stopped, sighed. Ryan, whatever she did. I'm sorry. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. Thanks. She's falling apart, Jenna added. I've never seen her like this. I wanted to ask what that looked like, but I didn't. Instead, I said, falling apart is sometimes what it takes. She went quiet. Then, is there anything I can do? No, I said. Just don't cover for her. And to Jenna's credit, she didn't. At least not publicly. I started hearing from mutual friends a few days later, carefully worded texts asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. A couple of them said they'd heard rumors. I didn't confirm or deny. I didn't need to. Rumors spread fast when the truth is vacuum sealed in **TS and someone's too ashamed to speak. 3 days after Brooke came home, her work ID stopped working. I know because she texted me, "Did you do something to my job?" I didn't respond. She called again. Left another voicemail, her voice tinged with panic now. "Ryan, HR put me on leave. Someone submitted a report, receipts, **TS, photos from the hotel." I don't know what to say. I never thought. Why would you do this to me? That was the first time she sounded angry. Like she'd been wronged. Like I was the one pulling the rug out from under her. She didn't realize she'd already pulled it on herself. The house was just a shell now. Not because I emptied it, but because she had. Over time. With every lie. Every deflection. Every moment she looked me in the eye and fed me something sweet and empty and practiced. I used to think homes were made of shared space, memories, the physical things that filled a room. But they're not. They're made of presence. Of mutual awareness. Of trust so quiet it doesn't even have to be spoken. The day I walked out, I stopped wondering if I was the problem. And by the time she walked back in, it was already too late for her to ask the same question. The thing about people like Brooke, people who pride themselves on always being in control, is that they build their lives like glass towers. All clean edges and polished surfaces. Everything transparent, but only from a distance. You step too close, try to look inside, and suddenly the reflection blinds you. She always had her image. At home, at work, online, it was curated. Intentional. Even her vulnerability had a script. That's what made what happened next so devastating. Because when the cracks started forming, they weren't from something loud or messy. It was quiet. Precise. Administrative. 3 days after she came home to an empty house, Brooke showed up at her office like it was any other Monday. She wore her usual uniform, navy blazer, cream blouse, perfect heels. She probably even smiled at the front desk, tossed a casual morning to the receptionist, breezed through the lobby with her signature confidence. But when she swiped her badge at the turnstile, nothing happened. She tried again. Still red. Then the security guard, Gary, a guy I'd met once at a company dinner, stepped out from behind the desk and politely asked her to wait in the side office. "HR will be down shortly," he said. Brooke must have felt the shift then. That cold wave of realization when your name starts showing up in emails you're not copied on. When your badge doesn't beep and your login credentials vanish like smoke. She texted me at 8:19 a.m. "Did you contact my company?" I didn't reply. At 9:03, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, I recognized her voice barely. "Ryan, I need to know what you did. I'm being placed on leave. They had a folder, your name wasn't on it, but I know it was you. Why are you doing this?" "This is my career." She said that last word like it was sacred. Untouchable. The one part of her identity that couldn't be questioned. But I never had to send anything myself. Brooke had made it easy. See, months before things fell apart, she talked endlessly about the ethics committee at her firm. How she was one of the original authors of their conduct manual. She once spent an entire dinner explaining how strict their policies were, how serious they were about off-books expenses, personal relationships that blurred professional lines, non-disclosure risks. Back then, I was proud of her. Yeah? I used her words like a map. I didn't send the file directly to her boss. That would have looked personal. Emotional. Instead, I sent it through the firm's anonymous ethics portal. Every corporation that size has one. Tied to compliance. Tracks misconduct. Flags inconsistencies. Internal teams handle the rest. All I did was upload the folder, expense records, hotel bills, emails, the ones with her maiden name, calendar inconsistencies, photos from the Houston trip, every detail cross-referenced and neutral in tone. No accusations. Just facts. It didn't take long for the machine to kick in. Her firm had protocols for this. HR conducted a preliminary review. IT locked her credentials. Her access to internal systems, email, files gone. She didn't even get to retrieve her personal items. Someone from security would box them and ship them to her later. She was escorted out by noon. By 12:17, I got another voicemail. This time, no intro. "You could have just talked to me. You didn't have to destroy everything. This is my livelihood, Ryan. My name is on client accounts. I've built this for years. Do you have any idea what this will do to me? And that's when it hit me. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about hurting her. This was about refusing to protect her lies anymore. For months, I'd been the wall between her and the consequences. I let things slide. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I trusted her silence and carried the weight of questions I was too scared to ask. But not anymore. She built the fire. I just stopped standing in the way. Her friends started reaching out soon after. Not mine, hers. Coworkers. People I barely knew but who had followed me on social media back when we still did couple things. DMs came in vague at first. Hey, just checking in. Hope you're okay. Saw something weird today. Call if you want to talk. Then more direct. Brooke says you went nuclear. What's going on? I ignored all of them. Let the silence work. Word spreads fast in corporate circles. And scandals? Scandals are like gasoline in a room full of candles. One whiff of impropriety and the entire boardroom repositions. No one wants to be on the wrong side of liability. Even her closest allies would have started distancing themselves if only for self-preservation. By Wednesday, Brooke was removed from the internal Slack directory. Her name no longer appeared under the team directory on the company website. LinkedIn still said Senior Strategic Director, but her profile hadn't updated in days. I checked her posts out of curiosity. 3 weeks earlier, she'd shared a smiling photo from the airport with the caption, "Off to Houston to grow, lead, and learn with the best." #Leadership Summit #Women in Strategy. I stared at that line for a long time. Grow, lead, learn. It almost sounded like a prophecy. Or a confession. Brooke was silent for 2 days after that. No texts. No calls. Then late Friday night, a long email came through. No subject line. Just her name in the sender bar. I waited a full hour before opening it. Ryan. I know you hate me. Maybe you should. I messed up. But I want you to know I never planned for any of this to happen. The trip, the hotel, the guy, it was never about replacing you. It was about feeling seen. I didn't send that stuff to hurt you. I didn't want you to find it. I never thought I'd lose everything. Please. If there's anything left of what we had, just tell me what I need to do to fix this. B. I read it once. Then again. There was no, I'm sorry. Not really. Just regret that the illusion had ended. The next morning, I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Add this to the file, I wrote, along with the receipts. Then I opened a blank message. Addressed it to her. Sat for a long time with my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I didn't know what I wanted to say. There wasn't anything left, really. But still, I typed 2 lines. You were seen. You just weren't honest about who you were when we looked. I didn't hit send. I just saved it in drafts. Let her wonder. Let her sit in the silence she'd created. In the career she'd lit on fire. In the reputation she couldn't repackage. Because this wasn't my fallout. It was hers. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the man who'd been left behind. I felt like the one who finally walked away after her job vanished, so did her people. The ones who laughed at her jokes in meetings, liked her posts, invited her to rooftop happy hours, they disappeared. One friend told me Brooke reached out, sobbing, asking if I had shown him the evidence. He said yes. He said I looked tired, not angry. That silence hurt more than any shouting could. The man from Houston stopped responding. She texted, called, begged, until his number stopped ringing. Her family kept their distance. Jenna was polite but firm. You need to figure out who you are when no one's watching. Brooke's social media filled with vague quotes, cryptic captions, and then nothing. No one replied. Her comments dried up. Group chats ghosted. Every safety net she assumed would catch her unraveled all at once. And she finally understood there was no one left to perform for. A week later, Brooke came back to the house. The garage still accepted her code, but the moment she stepped inside, she knew it wasn't hers anymore. The rooms were stripped bare of warmth. Furniture gone. Memories erased. Only the bedroom remained untouched. On her side of the bed sat a single framed paper. At the top, in bold, were her own words, something she'd said casually over breakfast weeks ago: some mistakes are worth making. Beneath it, in my handwriting, so are some exits. No signature. No note. Just finality. She sat on the bed, surrounded by silence, holding the last mirror I would ever hand her. I hadn't left in rage. I had left with precision. And the only thing she had left was the echo of her own choices.